So let's talk about some different countertop materials. And the first one is wood. Wood is a very traditional countertop material because it was something that has always been relatively easy for people to manipulate. We have readily available the tools to cut and process wood, and we've usually got wood all over the place where we don't necessarily have access to slabs of marble or the tools to manipulate stone, stuff like that, or metal, or whatever the case may be. Wood's relatively easily manipulated and processed, and it can be really attractive. It can be a very nice feature of the kitchen as long as you pay attention to certain things. Okay, around the sink, it can be really problematic if you haven't taken care to properly seal the wood. I've talked to a few people in the countertop industry that for a while, like maple countertops were really hot and everybody's putting maple countertops in. And then 3 years later, they're tearing them all out because it's all molding around the sink. So I'm not entirely sure how the installation occurred, but I would say it would be a good idea to really carefully seal the backside of that countertop and assume that water is going to get underneath that countertop, between the sink and the countertop, regardless of what kind of caulking you used. Okay. Another thing we want to pay attention to with wood is that we're using closed grain woods. We want to use something like maple or cherry, something that doesn't easily absorb stains or food or something like that. If you think about a piece of maple versus a piece of oak, you can see the little flecks of open grain in a piece of oak. And then think about taking a brick of cheese and rubbing that across the countertop. You're going to be pushing cheese into the countertop, whereas something like maple is going to be closed and it's not going to easily absorb stuff like that. Wood countertops can be repaired if something happens to it. You can like cut a piece of wood out, patch something back in. You can't say that about other countertop materials. It is, however, probably one of the softest materials, and so it's going to be scratch, ding, nick prone. And then depending on what you're doing and how it's been treated and installed, it could be prone to water or fire damage. So you're going to want to be careful with that. Metal countertops is another traditional material, and it's generally like a thin sheet of metal applied over usually a wooden substrate. Stainless steel, copper, zinc are all very common metal countertop materials. And one really nice thing about it is it's very easy to clean. Water doesn't penetrate it, food doesn't penetrate it. It's really easy to clean and scrub and wipe down. In the case of copper or zinc, it's actually hygienic. It's antimicrobial, so that can be kind of attractive also. And then metal tends to take on a patina. It changes its appearance. It feels softer and ages very well. It's very resistant to heat, so you could put a pot of boiling water on it and it wouldn't really affect the material. But it also is going to scratch pretty easily, and then if you're dropping heavy things on it or pounding on it or something like that, it can get dented, and then it's difficult to take those dents out. Okay, but maybe that's part of the patina. Maybe that's part of the allure, is kind of those like little nicks that it takes on over time. So plastic laminate is going to be your cheapest countertop option for the most part. And what it is it's a plastic, very thin plastic, maybe a 32nd of an inch thick, applied to, again, a wooden substrate, usually a particle board substrate. I really like plastic laminate depending on the finish that was chosen. Okay, it can be historically appropriate. It was really hot in like the 1950s, early 1960s. It's really easy to clean. I think that the endless supply and the catalog of like brands like Formica is pretty neat to like look at, and you can kind of pick out a lot of different designs. And then one thing about it is that this is something that people can manufacture themselves as well. You could buy the material, use contact cement to apply the material to a substrate, and then apply an edge banding. I've seen some kind of cool, like you can buy chrome edge bands for it and stuff like that. So it can be pretty neat. It doesn't wear well though. Okay, we can talk about wood countertops, metal countertops, and talk about the patina that they've taken on. You generally don't use patina and plastic laminate together. Okay, it chips, it scratches, it dents, it gets swollen. If it gets wet around the sink, it starts to swell and fall apart, and doesn't really age very well. Okay, natural stone is a stone that was quarried. Okay, it was dug out of the ground, it was mined, and it was slabbed up. Depending on how this was done, this can have some serious environmental impacts. But the most common materials are going to be marble, soapstone, which I really like soapstone, granite, and quartz. And then, quick note, quartz is a stone that you can make countertops out of. It's also kind of the generic term for engineered engineered stone. So like a processed, man-made stone-like material. Okay, so but just bear in mind that there's also a stone called quartz. Okay? Most of these, with the exception of soapstone and maybe marble, are kind of difficult to manipulate because they're so hard. You can't just grab your skill saw and cut it in a router and treat the edges. You need special tools. They can be very heat resistant, scratch resistant, moisture resistant. People maybe get a little too excited about granite and stuff like that because they really like this idea that it's like totally bomb proof. Okay, I'm not sure what people are doing in their kitchens that they need something that can impact or resist a direct nuclear blast, but some people really get excited about that. Okay? I would counter that there is such a thing as too hard. Okay, when something's too hard, it becomes brittle, and if it's not properly supported and you drop something heavy on it, it cracks. Okay, so it's the same thing as like concrete. As long as you've got a good subbase under your concrete, it's great. But these materials lack tensile strength. So if it's unsupported on the bottom and it's moving, or if something heavy falls on it, it'll just snap in half. Okay, and that can be very problematic because you can't just glue it back together. Okay, and then some of these materials, like granite in particular, can stain really easily and are highly dependent on routine applications of sealer, stone sealer. So you have to be sealing this every year at least in order to maintain that resistance, because stone is a porous material. Okay, if we pour red wine on it, it'll soak up that red wine. Okay. Engineered stone, again, this is most commonly referred to as quartz. Okay, when most people say quartz nowadays, they're talking about this engineered stone. And what this is it's kind of, on one hand, an environmentally friendly product in that it's using waste products from natural stone production. Okay, so the small rocks, offcuts, powders, everything from like marble and quartz and granite and soapstone gets mixed together with binders, glues and resins, okay? So on the one hand, and then let me also say, this is somewhat more easily manipulated and cut than natural stone, okay? And there are problems with this, I'm going to get to it. But it's considered environmentally friendly, okay? A lot of waste is diverted. They're not digging a hole in the ground and pulling this stuff out of the ground, okay? It's waste products and then chemicals mixed together to make an artificial stone product. Okay? We're starting to see now huge problems in the countertop industry related to the production and manipulation of these products with regards to silica exposure. So this has really, really high concentrations of silica. It has high silica content, and so when people cut, grind, polish this stuff, they're releasing silica dust into the air, and if they're not using proper PPE, they're getting that silica dust into their lungs and potentially causing silicosis, life-threatening diseases. Okay, so think about that when you are pursuing this engineered stone product, and I would put it on you, if you're picking this product out, put it on you to make sure that this is being produced and manipulated in a responsible way and that the workers are being taken care of. So solid surfaces are usually referred to as corian, and it's similar to the engineered product that we refer to as quartz. Again, it's a man-made product composed of waste products like dust and powder and binders, okay, glues and resins that hold it all together. The difference between these two is that these solid surfaces, corian, have a higher ratio of binders to stone products. Okay, so I'm just going to make up some numbers here, but let's say corian is 30% glue and 70% granite dust, whereas quartz is going to be 10% glue and 90% granite dust. Okay, so I would say that the engineered stone, the quartz, can look a little more, certainly more realistic than the corian. Okay. One really cool thing about corian, though, is you can do all and with engineered stone, but let me just say this first. Engineered stone is usually trying to mimic natural stone. Sometimes corian is trying to mimic engineered stone, but oftentimes it's just being whatever it wants, okay? It's whatever color you pick out, whatever kind of flakes you want in it, you can make it look however you want, and then it's kind of cool because it can be welded together essentially on site, glued together and welded on site. It can be bent, it can be shaped, you can put a piece of corian in a CNC router and cut different designs on it. There's kind of a lot of neat stuff that you can do. And then if it gets, when it gets beat up and scratched up and dinged up, you can come in and sand it back down. Okay, it's solid all the way through. And so you can sand this and buff it out and make it look new again. Okay. Tile is a very traditional countertop material, and I just love these old kind of post-war tile countertops. I just love this stuff. These are individual, I can't remember what these things are called, but bullnose tiles on the end here. And then this is called a pencil tile, this red rectangle. And then these are field tiles, these 4x4 tiles. And then these are field tiles just flipped into a diamond shape. And then these red ones are field tiles that have been cut in half and put in as a diamond. So there's a lot of design possibilities with tile. Lots of different colors, lots of different little trim pieces, like trimming out the sink. I just really get excited about this stuff. It's scratch resistant, it's heat resistant. Problems with it, they can chip easily, they can break. Okay, this is rounded for a reason. It's to kind of resist wear and tear and abrupt edges here, which are going to have a tendency to want to break. That being said, you have a broken tile. As long as you saved a box of tiles from the installation, you can remove one tile and put another tile in there. Okay. People are, I would say nowadays, somewhat resistant to tile countertops because traditionally it's been difficult to clean the grout. And then I would counter with, people don't want to do any sort of maintenance. So it's assumed that when you put in tile, you're going to periodically clean and reseal that grout. Okay? The grout is very porous, and if it's not sealed with something, dirt and water and stuff will get into it, and mold and stuff will start to grow on it. Okay? So it has to be maintained, and if it wasn't maintained, it's going to change color and it's going to be difficult to clean. And every now and then, you're just going to need to re-grout that material. Okay. I will say that the new sealers they have available are very, very effective, and they come with like a 50-year warranty. So I just want to tell everybody, don't be afraid of tile anymore. Okay. You can get really good sealers that'll keep that grout looking brand new for 50 years, okay? So just to kind of wrap this all up, the cabinets are going to be made to relatively standard dimensions so that we can have a comfortable workspace. Okay? We can stand close to the cabinets at a comfortable working height. They're sized and arranged to accommodate large and small appliances. Our countertops, lots of different countertop options. And I'd say the most important things to consider from a functionality point of view are its durability. And durability means a lot of different things. Is it dent resistant? Is it scratch resistant? Is it heat resistant? Is it water resistant? Okay. There's no material that's perfect, and mostly what it comes down to is what you like to look at, okay? What you like to feel when you put your hands on that surface, okay? So I hope this was helpful to everybody, and please feel free to email me if you have any questions about this.